Did you know that plants actually have a super precise built-in thermometer? How do they even tell the difference between the cozy warmth that helps them grow and the killer heat that totally destroys their cells? And what is seriously going on inside their leaves when the weather suddenly spikes? Plants do not just react to heat in one basic way. They actually have this super complex system that tells different temperatures apart. For example, a nice, cozy warmth totally triggers their roots to absorb nutrients and gets their leaves rocking at photosynthesis. But when the heat goes way too high, the cell membrane itself straight up starts acting like an alarm. Some of the surface proteins literally change shape, just like a danger bell ringing inside the cell. Scientists have actually discovered a protein called FERONIA that works like a super smart thermal sensor. This protein sits right on the surface of the cell, and if the temperature spikes, it totally gathers into these tiny little groups. These tiny little groups are called nanoclusters, and they literally fire off an internal message saying, "The heat has officially gone over the limit." Then, the signal travels straight to the cell nucleus to get its defense programs totally up and running. And it is seriously mind-blowing how perfectly designed plants are, because they actually have a specific thermal threshold. Right before hitting this limit, they can totally roll out their defenses, like pumping out heat shock proteins that keep their cells safe from getting damaged. The plant starts pumping out these protective proteins the exact second it senses danger. They latch onto the other heat-damaged proteins and completely stop them from clumping up and breaking down, acting just like cellular paramedic squads. Also, the plant actually closes the pores on its leaves partially during a heat wave. That totally cuts down on water loss from transpiration, keeping the inner tissues super hydrated so the cells do not dry out. And if the heat just keeps on climbing past that critical threshold, the whole cell membrane system completely breaks down. The cell totally loses its ability to tell the difference between helpful warmth and straight-up harmful heat. Right then, the damage completely outpaces the defense. The membranes straight up crack, the contents of the cells leak out, and the leaves totally dry up and turn brown. And that is exactly what we see in sunburned plants. This adaptation was totally limited to a super tight safety zone of just a few degrees. For instance, the Arabidopsis plant can easily handle temperatures up to 37 degrees Celsius, but once it hits 45 degrees, its defense completely falls apart. And that totally explains why some crops straight up die so fast during a sudden heat wave. There is just not enough time to get their protection programs up and running, so the cells completely collapse before their emergency response can even finish kicking in. So if we fully crack the code on how this plant thermometer works, we can totally develop crop varieties that are way more heat resistant. For instance, by tweaking the FERONIA protein to push that alarm threshold to a much higher level. This research is seriously not just some academic curiosity, it is a total necessity for our food security. With climate change and global temperatures totally spiking, heat-resistant plants are becoming an absolute priceless treasure. And when we see this mind-blowing brilliance inside a tiny plant cell, it totally proves that every single living creature is packed with super precise sensors. Glory be to the one who created and perfectly formed everything, and set a flawless balance for every single situation.